Welcome back to Rolling History. In this episode, we're going to change the shaft on the water pump. It's worn really bad, and I'm going to change that so we don't have any problems. I'm going to put new packing in it, and just give it an all-around overlook to make sure that everything's going to work all right. So let's go do it. So this is the water pump to the Dodge. Today we're going to take it apart, clean it up. Hopefully there's not too much wrong with it, and then we're going to put it back together. So let me get some tools out and we'll get it apart. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out these pins on the end, and that'll let me take these nuts off. So let me this one I'm going to have to grind off a little bit. It seems to be mushroomed on both sides, and this one is almost out. So and let me put it in the vise and we'll see if we can't just punch that one out. That was kind of awkward. Okay, that one came right out. Oh, looks more like a nail. Yeah, that looks more like a nail than it does a pin to hold that in. All right, I got this crazy little rig set up here. I'm not sure if it's gonna work or not, but we're gonna give it a try. It's not looking good. Got it. Okay, those two pins came out pretty easy. So I'm going to try to get this end off of here. All right, I'm just going to loosen this side here so maybe I won't have the friction. And I think this one is right-hand thread. Okay. Okay, that seems like it's gonna do the trick. There we go. I think it's coming now. Yep. Okay, next step is gonna be to take all of these bolts out of the water pump here. Oh, that packing is really giving me a hard time. Okay. Okay, so somewhere down in here on the impeller there's a pin that I can drive through to knock it out so I can take the impeller off, but I don't see it anywhere. Doesn't look like it's the original one either. It looks like it's another nail that's been pushed into there. Man. Okay, so I've got the water pump here, and I finally tracked down all the pieces that I needed to put it back together. I got a new shaft, And just a few minutes ago, I put the shaft into this housing. There's the gear in here that drives the whole thing, and put on the gasket and tightened it down. And then my phone decided it was out of memory, and I didn't get it saved, and I don't want to wreck the gasket, so you're gonna have to take my word for it. I just put a gasket on here, and now I want to put the rest of it together. So the plan is to add this part of the water pump, and then the impeller. And the impeller actually, it goes over that keyway right here, but it also has a pin. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little hole right here for this pin to go in. And that's what I'm going to do now, is I'm going to try to get that pin to fit. Okay, I got that pin in there, but it was not an easy task. So I'm just going to finish up here with this gasket, and I'm going to seal up the pump part, and then we'll work on the packing and get that all taken care of. Now it only goes one way, so I got to figure out which way that is. That looks like it right there. All right, so there we go. I hope these are pointed in the right direction. I think it'll only go one way. I'll have to check a little bit later. So now let's figure out this packing. All right, so I'm going to try to put this packing on here, and I'm going to cut the joint at an angle. I'm going to try to make it kind of a 45. I don't know if you'll be able to see me doing that, but don't want to get this on my fingers. I don't want to cut myself today. So when it's on, it kind of makes a little overlap. I'm going to place it this way so that the crack, the seam, is up when it's mounted on the car. And I'm going to push my little piece in here. Okay, now I'm going to do that again. Okay, and this one I'm going to mount a little bit off so that the two seams don't end up in the same spot inside there. I'm down to my last bit of packing here on the pump, and they're all pretty easy, not too hard. Just the only one that was kind of difficult was the second one in the center, because it was tight. There was not a lot of room to work with, but actually getting it in there wasn't too bad. It was just getting the space to do it. Okay, now the trick is to get them tight enough to seal, but not too tight to put a strain on the motor. And right now they're pretty tight. but I'm not sure how that'll be after I run it for a few minutes. I'll have to come back and adjust them a little bit and see how they work. But it feels awfully smooth. So anyways, I still need to get the pulley here and the little piece down here, but I'll get that when I'm ready to put it all together. So for now, I'm gonna call this finished. Okay, so here is the finished water pump, all rebuilt. And before I leave, I wanted to point out a few things in case you decide to do this on your own. The shaft here from Myers Early Dodge is a little bit oversized. So you need to remount your gear just a hair, and the bushings possibly. At first I was kind of mad about that, but then I figured out they might have done that on purpose because the bushings most likely are worn, and then you don't have to add new bushings. You can just kind of ream them a little bit larger, or like on the case of one of these, I didn't have to change it at all. It was worn just enough to fit over the shaft and be right, or be close enough. So so just be aware that if you're going to do this, that this shaft is a little oversized. Don't try to push the gear on there without changing the size, because it'll wreck. It'll bend the shaft. Also, the impeller, the hole that pin goes in, I guess Dodge didn't have any real standard for where they drilled the hole, so they did that afterwards. And so the hole may not line up. The one that's already drilled on the shaft, you have, I guess, 1 in 360 degree chance that it's going to line up perfect, and you're just going to be able to put the pin in there. I had 2 impellers. One of them lined up close enough that I could just kind of bore it out a little bit with my drill bit, and the other one was not anywhere close. So just be aware that the impellers, you don't have a huge amount of chance that it's going to line up perfectly without a little bit of work on your end. Other than that, it was not too bad. I made the gaskets myself out of some gasket paper, and I bought the packing from Myers Early Dodge, which turned out to be really good, because on my Buick I just went down to the boat shop and they had some packing, and it was much harder to work with. So I was happy that Myers had it. And so yeah, this is ready to go, and that's one less part I have to work on next week. So we'll see you next time. All right, thanks for watching this episode of Rolling History. In the next episode, we're going to work on the rear end, try and get it put back together. There was a little bit of trouble with the drive shaft. Luckily, I found another one, and it's on the way. So when that gets here, we're going to try and put it all back together, and then we'll have the front axle, the rear axle, the transmission, the frame, and all the springs will be ready to bolt back together. So we should start to see some progress. You know, the car is really far apart right now, so it'll be nice to see some of the nuts and bolts and parts that are laying around get back together. So stay tuned for the next episode, and hopefully we'll get that put together. And then the following episode, maybe we'll get the chassis almost to the rolling chassis. We won't have the wheels back yet, but it'll be ready for them. So thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.